Hello and welcome to HUDL Up, the podcast from HUDL, where we're holding space for real stories, shared power and collective change. HUDL works alongside young people, organisations and communities to create fairer systems and better opportunities, not just for young people, but with them. And this podcast is where those stories come to life. Each episode, we'll hear from young leaders, practitioners and partners who are reshaping how decisions are made and programmes are designed. Together, we'll explore what it takes to build equitable partnerships, share power meaningfully, and create change that lasts. We believe that when young people are involved at every stage, from design and decision-making to delivery, systems become fairer and communities stronger. So let's huddle up and get started with today's episode. And for today's episode, we are joined by 5 incredible associates of HUDL, Betty, Kimberly, Lewis, Teian, and Thalia. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
So this is one of the episodes that I have been anticipating since we first started the series. I'm really keen to hear about your journeys into joining HUDL as associates, because many of you, your first, connection to HUDL was through the different programs that you joined. And now all of you are in some way, shape or form working as lead facilitators or coordinators on a range of programs at HUDL. So I would like to kick off by coming to each of you and asking you about your journey here and the roles and the role, that you're holding now, just so that our listeners know a little bit more about you before we go into the experience and the learnings and the challenges. Who would like to start off? Who would like to introduce themselves to our listeners?
I'm Kimberly and I am a HUDL Associate. Yes, so my journey started off in the Involving Young People Collective as a youth consultant. And then I became a HUDL Associate thereafter to kind of get to understand the work behind getting projects done, but also bringing young people together. I'm from a community organising background, so it's very up my street. And I love facilitating and working directly with young people. So it was an opportunity to do that. I was a lead facilitator for 2 programs. So the first was Children in Need's A Million and Me program back in 2024, I believe. Don't quote me on this, I might be wrong on the year, but I know I was definitely a lead facilitator for that program. I'm back again as a lead facilitator for the Youth Leadership Program.
Amazing, thank you. Betty, can I come to you?
For sure. Hey, I'm Betty. I met HUDL as one of the original members of the Involving Young People Collective at Esme Fairbairn. I joined at the age of 20 and it was mid-pandemic. And so we didn't actually get to meet in person for a couple of years, but we managed to build a really tight community online and we'd meet twice a month. And I just felt like I knew everyone really deeply and I really, really enjoyed Keji and Florrie's way of working. They really embed youth work in their practice. And so we felt very held, well-being wise, whilst also feeling that our voice and the work that we were doing is really important and really mattered. So you have this kind of cross-dealing of feeling very adult, doing your work and being in spaces where you have to make really interesting and important decisions, whilst also being held as a young person, accessing your first job and professional spaces. So yeah, I love the way they worked. And so as my time at the Esme Fairbairn's Involving Young People Collective went on, I was asking Keji and Florrie how I could get more involved in HUDL's work, as I could see that our time kind of phasing out of the Involving Young People work. And I've been working with HUDL ever since. I'm currently a lead facilitator at the COP Foundation, facilitating their Future Communities Collective. But I've also worked with BBC Children in Need and have done consultancy projects in various organizations and worked with Keji on developing a consultant arm of HUDL. Yeah, I love it. I feel it's really interesting being behind the scenes of youth participation programs and seeing just how much work and intention goes into each session, and then seeing how the young people we work with they just feel it's all kind of made up on the spot. I don't think that they realize how much work that it takes, and I think that's a good sign because we make it look effortless.
Great, thank you so much, Betty. Teian, over to you.
Thank you so much, Keji. What a great answer, Betty. I feel that's quite hard to follow. I think my time with HUDL began back in 2018 or 2019 now. I actually started off as a program participant as well, where I did the Career Pathway program, which has been rebranded, repackaged, and we run something quite similar now in partnership with the Damula Taylor Trust called the Career Pathway Programs for School. And after doing that program, I stayed connected with HUDL and Keji. And in 2022, there is an opportunity to rejoin HUDL as an associate, and I was elated. It has been the highlight of my life ever since, and is my ultimate reason for being on this podcast, but also for all of the joy that I have and I can share on the programs I am on. In light of that, I will let you know that I am the lead facilitator on the debate program that we run here at HUDL. So I run a program in a primary school. We started the program 2 years ago now, and it's been so successful that we've managed to get it recommissioned. I'm also the coordinator on the Mission 44 project, and I occasionally dibble and dabble in everybody else's business. So a little bit of Betty's business, a little bit of Kim's business, a little bit of Thalia's, a little bit of Lewis, because I also am the logistics associate at HUDL, so I help them with everything that they're trying to get done for the young people on their projects as well.
And
So
it
yeah,
is much appreciated.
I do my best.
You do, you really do. Lewis, over to you.
Of course, thanks, Keji. Yeah, so I'm Lewis, and I definitely say that I fell into working with HUDL. So I originally, in like 2023, on my third year of uni, I sent an email randomly to a charity called Mission 44 asking if I could do an internship with them for a scholarship I had. And they just wrote back and was like, no, sorry, we don't offer that at the moment, but keep an eye out for extra opportunities. So I was like, okay. And then a couple of weeks later, they advertised this youth advisory board position. And I applied and got on that. And then that's how I met HUDL, because HUDL were for the delivery partners on that program. So I met Keji, met Flori, met Thalia, and didn't really think about anything and just got on with the program. And then after about a year later, I got involved in the program that Kim mentioned as well, called the Million and Me Award, and I was a participant in that as well. So definitely all of my introduction was participant based. And then coming towards the end of uni, Keji and I had a chat about doing some extra work after graduating. And yeah, that's how I joined. So over the last year and a bit, I've been working on the Children in Need Youth Leadership Program as a program coordinator. So kind of like the cohort's first point of contact, administration and logistics, and then also like a surprising amount of data analysis and like feedback and stuff like that. Yeah, it's been great.
Amazing. Thank you. That's been really helpful. Thalia, what about you?
Yeah, I'm Thalia. And yeah, my journey through HUDL was also through the Involving Young People's Collective. I joined with Betty in 2020, and that was great as like a way to get into this side of the charity sector, because I think before I'd been a participant in different ways, and I think getting into the grant making space was definitely something I hadn't expected to be so interested in. So it was a great opportunity. As we came to the end of our tenure, like similar to Betty, I was just like really open to different working opportunities. And yeah, I feel like since then, I've just been all over HUDL basically. Like I've been on the Mission 44 program. I coordinated the We Move Fund, even had a short stint on the Future Communities Collective. But I'm currently the coordinator for the Involving Young People Collective, and generally look at like how to support coordinators in this role. A lot of process and operations things. Yes.
Amazing. So Thalia, I want to stick with you for a second. So at HUDL, the way that we run programs is we always have like either two lead facilitators and then we have a lead coordinator. You are essentially the person who we kicked off the lead coordinator role with, and you know it inside out, which is why you help to onboard and support all of our coordinators. So could you tell our listeners what is the lead coordinator? What are they generally responsible for? And how does that look like in the role that you have currently with IYPC?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's important to say, like, when me and Betty were on the Involving Young People Collective, we didn't have a coordinator. And I think a coordinator is really important because they take a lot of the, not stress, but like they take a lot off the lead facilitator that allows
both parties to do their jobs very well, I would say. Like, both roles are really important, but if you're a lead facilitator trying to do all the coordination, I think it's next to impossible. And the role has really developed, and it kind of depends by the project you do as well. Like, I think some coordinators are more involved in the delivery and the facilitation, and others really hold the like admin and coordination and logistics and that kind of stuff. But it's come a long way, and I think what's really cool about the HUDL model is that our coordinators are all project participants, so they really know and can identify, like, from being on a program, what that means, and they can anticipate the needs of the participants as well because of that, or identify gaps that maybe you wouldn't see if you hadn't done a similar projects before. So yeah, currently with the Involving Young People Collective, like almost 6 years into this project even being like a thing, I think we've come a really long way with the coordinator, and the coordinator is very embedded and helps to deliver things. So yeah, I hope that answered.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. Thank you. Betty, I would like to come to you if you could just describe what the lead facilitator role is.
Sure. So the lead facilitator is responsible for holding the facilitation of each of the sessions of the projects. And so the programs are usually brought together and held together by regular meetings between the young people and the trust and foundation that we're working with and the HUDL team. And so it is the lead facilitator's role to work with the trust and foundation to be able to build out a timeline of activities and a schedule of activities and events that the young people will be working on over the year. And then it's the lead facilitator's role to build that into agendas for each of the meetings. And it's really important as a HUDL facilitator to ensure that our meetings are like accessible, they're fun, they're full of joy. We're actually checking in with people as humans, as well as like getting the work done. And we care a lot about like having productive meetings, but making sure that people aren't leaving exhausted, and are leaving like energized and like ready to do the work. We also have a big responsibility of like checking in on the well-being of the young people that we work with. And so we hold check-ins every 2 to 3 months, where we are meeting with every single one of the young people on the boards to make sure that the work is suiting their like capacity, whether they have any new needs that we need to be aware of, and just like making sure that like they're doing okay as people. A lot of the young people we work with are studying or working in their other time, and so there's a lot of like stress and a lot of like demands on their time and beings and capacities, and like there tends to be lots of things going on at home and in families, and like it's our role to make sure that we are tapped into that if they need us to be, and that we are making sure that the sessions that we're running that meets their needs. And so I would say the lead facilitator is holding the kind of being as well as the work.
Yeah, thank you. Kim, as another one of our lead facilitators, is there anything that you want to add to what Betty said in terms of the role?
I completely agreed with what Betty said. I guess to add on to that, it's being a client liaison as well. So I guess part of it is being the person that provides updates to the trust or foundation that's commissioned us to do this work, to provide them updates on the young people, on their skills or their progress or their development, as well as measuring the progress in the program. So recording the learning as you go along, and being, I guess, the lead person who enables everybody to bring that learning together. So whether that be the coordinator, the young people themselves, or the client.
Thank you. So Teian, I'm going to come to you with the next question. So when you think about when you first joined HUDL as an associate, what feels different now?
I think on reflection, what I would say feels different is probably that I feel much more connected to the work. And I feel like we have a lot of great structures in place. Thanks, Thalia, for all of the work you've done in the background to get us to streamline our ops a bit better. I feel like I am more part of the team now, and I think that's been helped a lot by the associate meetings we had recently. We had a very nice in-person social in London, and it was fantastic to see everyone and have a little chin wag. So I feel not very connected to the work and very connected to my fellow associates, and I think that helps to bring even more joy into the space, which I think is different from the beginning because I feel like we were still in COVID mode at the time when I joined. So yeah.
Thank you. Lewis, you're one of our newer associates. So I guess I'm going to ask you that question. So just wondering like what that experience has been for you. So when you think back to when you first joined as an associate, which was last year, what feels different now?
I would definitely agree with Teian that I feel like a lot more part of the team, and also kind of it's interesting to have the kind of insider knowledge, I guess, on what goes on behind the scenes as a participant and like coming straight out of. I mean, also still being on Mission 44, I'm kind of straddling participant and a coordinator at the same time, or associate at the same time. It's been really interesting to see what it looks like to be a participant, and everything's kind of breezy and coming together, and we've got everything's kind of flowing, and then behind the scenes, what goes on as well, like trying to hold that so that things run smoothly. And I guess also another thing that I was going to say that's been really interesting to see more from like a development side is as a participant, I'm kind of concerned with how am I showing up and like what am I bringing to the space. Whereas a coordinator, like you're intentionally concerned with how the participants of the program engaging. And so it's been really amazing to see how different participants are growing and developing in their own individual way as well. So like however I might be growing as an individual is not what they're kind of prioritizing when they're in a different program, for example.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. So I'm going to move on to the next question and ask, how has your perspective of program delivery evolved? And I'm going to come to Betty and Kim, Thalia first on that question. How has your perspective on program delivery evolved?
I think for me personally, it's developed and evolved a great deal because when I was a participant, as Lewis just kind of echoed, that you don't realize the sheer amount of work that goes into making something happen. I think the best way I could probably describe this is if you're working in like a Michelin star restaurant and when customers see that final kind of meal, it's pretty, it's really tasty, it's great to look at, but you don't see like the sweat, the blood, the tears that go into making this happen. And when I say sweat, blood and tears, I don't mean that obviously it's challenging work, but challenging in a good way. And I think challenging because we've got such a high standard that we uphold at HUDL. And I feel like it's something that I would personally like more organizations to adopt, that willingness to reflect and be like, how can we do this better? Like how can we meet the needs of the young people that we have better and not just roll out the same program over and over, but how do we meet the individual needs of that particular cohort and go over and beyond for them? How do we make time on the program special? And I think that takes a great deal of skill and thought and care and compassion, and also a great degree of flexibility. And I think we've got that flexibility. And apologies to my older facilitators, but I think there's something about being young and wanting to adapt and learn in the process that's allowed us to be more malleable. We're not stuck in rigid processes. We're willing to adapt and change and pivot where necessary. And I think that's definitely been a big reflection for me so far.
Amazing, thank you. Betty, Thalia, would you like to add to that? How has your perspective on the program delivery evolved?
Before becoming a lead facilitator, I didn't have loads of experience with the like building of a program. Like I've delivered programs like in my work, but the actual like being behind the scenes and like building the program, pre-program, I've learned so much from that because I think that I had always thought that it was better to have an attitude that was like a bit more like scrappy, like doing a lot with a little and like working with what you've got. But I think that working with HUDL, I've learned that it's okay to name that actually this work is going to take a little bit more time. It's okay to name that this work is going to require more resource if we actually want to do this well. And that recognizing that like taking young people who've like just exited school into positions where they're responsible for like big decisions in like trusts and foundations, it's a big journey. There's a lot of inducting that goes into that. There's a lot of training and like really holding young people through that process, and it needs to be properly resourced with like time, capacity and funding. And so I think that I now have a more realistic attitude towards like what it means to build a program. And it's okay to name that actually we need more if we really want to do this well. I think that has made my work better quality, like in all areas for me.
Thanks, Betty. Thalia, I saw you nodding along. Do you want to add anything to that?
I think Betty made a great point. Like, I think being a participant is a great experience, but then coming on the other side really rounds it off, I think. And as Kim and Betty were both talking, I was thinking about like just the arc I've personally had working with HUDL from participant to now, and I think my development has been like unreal. I think I used to be the very quiet person who would like just not speak, and I think people who know me now are like, "You be speaking there." So I don't know. I think has helped me come out my shell and feel more confident, but also like competent to do things and like work on the things that I care about as well. And being a participant was a big part of that, I think, because you kind of need to know what it's like to be the person in the chair to like understand how they might perceive something. And since I was someone who was on the program, if I ever need to justify a decision or explain why we did something a certain way, I know why they feel maybe like a bit with their back up or not understanding that there are all these different things happening in the background. So I think it's really, really helped me have a full picture of like some of the challenges, but also like how to make it better as well on the other side.
It's interesting that you say that, Thalia, because I know that like we've had conversations where we're in like design process mode and I'll be like, let's do it this way. And you'll be like, I don't know how that's going to land. Or like I go back to you and I go, how do you think it's going to land with people? And it's like, I know that I can trust that you're coming from, this has happened before and I've experienced it as a participant and I can assure you that it is not going to work or you're more likely to get pushed back. And that's really helpful. And I think that that's one of the main reasons why we recruit associates the way that we do, because we want everyone to have actually experienced being on the program in order to really inform the process and to inform the design. My next question then is, and this is not open to any of you, you know, some of you have been an associate for like what, 4 years? So I'm wondering like, what do you notice now that you didn't notice before? Either about yourself, either about the way that we work, just, yeah. What do you notice now that you didn't notice before?
I think something that quickly came to mind, like having completed a IYPC cohort cycle, but then having completed another cycle now as a coordinator on the other side, so that's like 6 years in total or something, is the need to keep it cyclical. Like the intergenerational cohort model is really important because being in that space, like I love it, it's an amazing space, but I also see the need to like bring fresher eyes and keep developing other leaders in the space. And like it shouldn't just be me in the same project for like 10 years, I think. So it really makes me believe in this model because we're all building each other up as we go. And you don't want to get like stale, I guess, or like used to things. And I think that's why we always use the term of like critical friend, because we want to keep it fresh and we want to, yeah, be relevant. So I think being in the role for so long has definitely made me notice that.
I agree with Thalia on that. One of the other things that I feel like I notice more now is just the sheer pressure that obviously organisations have to deliver any of this work and do it well and do it justice and actually ensure that it's not hindering young people, it's developing them, but then meeting the objectives of why you're doing the program in the first place. And that's a really challenging thing to do, I think, to go from a brief or a concept to then actually delivering it. And I feel like what I have noticed is, or at least what I've learned in the process, is it's not easy, and at times it requires a lot of thinking ahead and sometimes the brief changing. And that's something I wouldn't have seen obviously as a participant, but in some of the programs that I've worked in, I've realized that sometimes the brief at the beginning is based on assumption, obviously, before you've got that particular group of young people onboarded. And rather than sticking specifically to that brief and perhaps maybe missing some of the valuable learning that might come out of maybe opening it up a little bit and amending it and iteratively doing it, you miss out a lot. And I'm speaking from the example of the current project that I'm on at the moment, the Youth Leadership Program with Children in Need. I really loved that we were able to co-design the program with young people and it wasn't a set thing that was just packaged and ready to go without their input, because I think that made the experience so much more valuable.
Amazing. Thank you, Kim. Teian, how about you? Is there anything that you notice now that you didn't notice before?
I think the sheer work that can go into designing and building out a program is something that's been really surprising. So I facilitated on the Career Pathway program, on the Crystal Palace and Bermondsey program. So I went from just receiving my session plan for Crystal Palace, going, banging it out, having a laugh with the students, and it was great, to being able to do that shift to do the program again last year at Bermondsey, which required a lot more active involvement in the planning of the sessions, and similar to Kim, adapting that session to the young people. We were working with a group which was mostly girls, which was all girls actually, and a group which was mostly religious, and we were doing it during the time of Ramadan, and we had to come together as a group of facilitators to shift. Whereas I consider my role as the lead on the debate program, where I'm relying on a lot of my own expertise to actually plan and flesh out that program myself, which means that I have to be open to learning from those around me, keeping my thumb on the pulse of what's happening in my side of the industry so that I can deliver the most up-to-date information in the program. So it's been a lot of adapting, listening, trying to work on those bottlenecks to ensure that the quality is high at all times. And it's been beautiful to be able to do that. And thank you, Keshi, for creating space for that adaptation.
Thanks, Teian. So I think what's clear is that all of you have come kind of into your roles, whether that's coordinating or facilitating, as a result of being facilitators and being in spaces where HUDL essentially has held space, right? So I'm curious to hear from you, what does it mean to hold a program from your respective roles? What do you think it means to hold a program?
I think that what HUDL brings is the expertise around what it means to support young people through a program. So trusts and foundations rely on HUDL to hear the brief, hear the work that trusts and foundations needs young people to do, and the kind of decisions they want them to be a part of. And to hold a program at HUDL means that you are transforming this brief into a journey for young people to be able to go on. And so it means recruiting young people that bring a varied range of experience and expertise and come from all over the UK, and supporting these young people that can be as young as 16 to be able to access work via Zoom, meet their peers, and like be in spaces with people they've probably like never even met before, and to be able to feel confident enough to be a part of decision making around a topic they've also probably never been involved in before. A lot of the young people we work with have no experience of grant making, and lots of them haven't even heard of the trusts and foundations that they're working with until this opportunity. And so to hold the program means to support young people from this journey, that this is all completely new and fresh, to feeling really confident that they're making decisions that they feel that they're really well informed on, and that they really trust each other to make decisions that feel right for themselves and the communities and the people that they want to support in the country.
Thanks, Betty. Lewis, I'm going to come to you. What does it mean to hold a program from a coordinator perspective?
Betty spoke to a little bit around that HUDL has a really unique role in facilitating, like making sure the young people get what they need from the program, and also what the organization, the foundation, gets what they need as well. And so I think the role HUDL plays in that space, or in holding the space, like to hold the space, is actually HUDL's creating the space more than anything. And I think that the onboarding period is so important, speaking from the youth leadership program, because in terms of creating the space, you're building buy-in from the beginning. Same with the co-design, that you, in creating that youth leadership program with everybody, we had a set of sessions where people were learning what they said they wanted to learn. And like HUDL were able to go, okay, what do you guys want to learn? And okay, children in need, what are the target, what are the things that you need out of this program? And create something which matched both parties, so that everybody could have a great time and enjoy it, and all whilst relationship building at the same time. And so I don't know if that's necessarily from the coordinator perspective, but I think like just in general, like in terms of program design, to hold is it's actually the creation of the space that HUDL offers.
I agree with that. And I was going to add to it quickly, Keji, just to say, I think what's unique about HUDL is that we don't see the young person as a sole individual. They come as a unit with whatever communities exist around them. So from like their parents, their schools, for example. And I think HUDL does a great job of trying to link those trusted adults on that journey as well. And that's something that we've definitely done through this recent program that I was talking about. And I don't think it's something that I've seen done elsewhere in the sector. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's not as common. Sometimes projects tend to take place in silos, and there isn't then that link for the young people to take it away elsewhere, or for those around them to be not involved in the process, but that scaffolding to support them in the process. Because as Betty mentioned earlier, young people are going through transitions, they're going through difficulties sometimes with school, home life, social media now, and the pressures with that. And I feel like HUDL works to try and see the bigger picture and see how we contribute to that ecosystem for that young person and link those parts of the young person's life together as well.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. So the question I wanted to ask everyone now then is kind of like, what for you have been the most common experiences and challenges that you've faced stepping into the roles that you have at HUDL as associates?
I feel like Lewis needs to speak first, because being a coordinator is tough work. It is tough work getting people to respond to you. So Lewis, I think you should take this one away.
I was biting my tongue. But I think, yeah, as a coordinator, I'm most grateful for when people are like quick to respond and able to respond, and you put a form out and someone responds straight away, or you don't have to send. I don't know. There's probably been some forms where I've spent 5, 6, 7, 8 follow-ups to like get responses, and at some point you have to just call it quits, right? So that is I think trying to get people to respond can be difficult, but also you have to appreciate that people have got so many different and conflicting priorities and commitments, and so it's like, how do you move on with what you've got whilst also making sure you can get as much as you can get? And that also comes back to how do we communicate with young people. Like, we often use Slack as like a space for young people to come together. Sometimes you have to frequently have to do an onboarding with, okay, what does Slack look like? And if we don't get that right, then maybe you have like lower engagement to begin with, and like find different ways to do it. So I think, yeah, definitely getting form responses and things can be challenging. And I think just in terms of, in general, like these like associate roles are freelance roles, right? And I think sometimes on a personal level, sometimes you have to kind of compartmentalize. Like in an ideal world for me, you'd be able to compartmentalize. Like, okay, I'm doing project A on Monday, project B on Tuesday, project C on Wednesday. But in reality, everyone wants to do that, and people's projects and days are all intermingled. So just trying to be flexible with, okay, how can I do half an hour here and half an hour there, and make sure that we like get what we said we were going to do done.
Thanks, Lewis. Does anyone else want to share their common experiences and challenges that they faced at stepping into this role?
One of the things that I really appreciate, and I think is a main challenge, but we've been able to mitigate it, is us not knowing everything. So as an associate, I have moments, obviously, when you're designing a program, and there might be pieces of knowledge that you don't know or you're not well versed in. But what's nice is that we can mitigate that through having a network of other associates or other people within the HUDL network that we can call upon. Just a quick example, on the program, I had to call on Betty's expertise to deliver a session on influencing and looking within kind of your own sphere of influence and also your external sphere of influence. And it's something that I didn't have a lot of knowledge on, but I was glad that we were able to reach out to Betty and the Advocacy Academy to deliver that.
Amazing. Thanks, Kim. And then Teian, I wanted to actually ask you this question specifically because you're across multiple programs and you are one of our associates that works with our youngest group of participants. You also manage our junior associates who are 11 plus, right? And they're very new to the HUDL community. So yeah, what are the common experiences and challenges that you face stepping into these roles?
Yeah, I just want to echo Kim as well. Betty has been a blessing to me. She's been super helpful in terms of speaking to me just more about the role as a freelancer. That's been a challenge for me to really wrap my head around. So thank you, Betty. In terms of working with the mini associates or juniors.
Well, some of them are taller than me, so I don't know if we can call them.
It's so awesome being able to work with younger kids. I think that one of the main challenges is sometimes really scheduling, getting people to be where you need them to be at a specific time. It can also sometimes be my communication. Because of my background, sometimes I really need to wind it back a lot, trying to adapt like my tone, the words that I use, making sure that is this the most simple way I can say this? It's something that I've been working on and I'm still working on. Keji has a lot of insight into this. And I continue to develop that out, to just leave certain parts of my communication out and making sure that it's as impactful as possible, it's as concise as possible, to ensure that I don't lose the young people, especially the under 11s, because I am working with year 5 and year 6 children. So it's just really adapting my communication style when I'm communicating with them, and even with the parents, because all of these parents are from various backgrounds. Some people are going to be really into complex language, and other people just don't have the time to process it. And as you build those relationships and you're trying to build your own credibility as an associate as well, you want to make sure you keep them with you at all times. And so I really try to tailor my communication style to each group. And it's been a bit of a challenge for me because it's not naturally how I communicate. So that's been quite entertaining, I'm sure, for Kishi to watch.
Why do you bring my name into this all the time?
Because you're always like, no, you need to reword this.
Thank you, Teian. Thalia, I absolutely have to come to you with this question, because you and I have toughed it out over the years and ironed out many a process and troubleshooted across various programs. So for you, what would you say are the common experiences and challenges that you face stepping into the roles that you have at HUDL?
Yeah, I mean, I think before stepping into the coordinator role, I don't think I really appreciated like how much of a bridge HUDL is between like the client and the young people. That's like a very difficult role to hold, like, because if the young people are the critical friend to the client, HUDL is the critical friend to both, and that doesn't always go down super well. And sometimes it's really hard to balance, I think. And another common challenge is definitely capacity. Like I echo what Teian said, everyone has so much going on. And I think when we started, it was COVID and we had like an abundance of time. It felt like, because we were just all at home. But then with the shift back to like life as it was, with online working just like filtered into it, I think we had to really go through quite an adjustment period, like finding a way of working that like balance both our life before and our online life now, like working from home and all that kind of stuff. And I think another challenge, I don't know if the other coordinators would agree or not, but I think like I care so much about the work, but sometimes it just makes me like very hard on myself. So if something even goes like a little bit wrong in a program, I feel very like upset for the young people, even though they probably could brush it off in a second and haven't clocked it at all. So I think like being passionate is not a challenge, but I just think it makes navigating some of the like things that just happen anyway in the sector a little bit difficult at times, personally.
Amazing, thank you. Okay, so I'm interested to know then, and I'm sure our listeners are too, what has the role revealed about your skills and your strengths?
I was surprised to see how much of the coordination allows you to get into like some level of data analysis, which for me, because my background's in physics and STEM, it was quite like, it was nice to have that kind of hold on to that. Firstly, in the recruitment stages, and when you're looking at like when you're scoring different applications and everything, it was just nice to get into the spreadsheets there. But then also kind of on the youth leadership program in particular, we collected a lot of feedback after every session. And like just being able to kind of look at the trends of how things changed over time, what people were saying, and both like qualitatively and quantitatively was really, I mean, saying fun sounds so nerdy, but it was just really nice to get.
But it is fun, Lewis. It is fun.
Yeah,
you know, I told you, you're like my Excel god, right? I've told you this already.
And I'm so bad at it still. And then I think another thing that it revealed, which was definitely a surprise to me because I wasn't expecting to do any facilitation over the length of the program as a coordinator, was that, and it was this is both a strength and a challenge maybe, it was like facilitating is something that I can do as well. And I never really like thought that I would be doing something like that. And I especially, also if you've like seen me at Mission 44 as well, you know that I just don't love to do public speaking and stuff. So like any time that I was encouraged to try and do it was really great. And I wasn't sure how it would go when we did it for the youth leadership program, and new things are always challenging, of course, but I think it went really, really well. And the session got great feedback. So, with the data analysis and everything, that was wonderful to see. But it was, it went well, and that was formative for me. And like, I can actually do this stuff as well as just sitting in the spreadsheets.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Kim, you were about to jump in.
I was going to say, Lewis, I think your humbleness is your strength, because there was such notable feedback from your emotional intelligence session that I think you played it down there a little bit.
No. You also held that space so much for me in terms of like just I didn't have to worry about any of the like or where the resources going to go because you'd already passed them out as soon as I started, like before I even moved on to the next topic. So it just flowed really nicely, and that was thank you for assisting.
No
Amazing,
worries.
thank you. Teian, Betty, Thalia, what has this role revealed about your skills and strengths?
I'll jump in really quickly. I think my work with HUDL, it was my ability to actually work with such a young group. I didn't think that I had the temperament for it, but I actually loved them. It's a little bit crazy. I love them so much. They are the highlight of my week. I never thought I had like I said, the temperament or the capacity to work with that young of a group because of how I like to communicate. So I think the work has been teaching me a lot about myself. And also, when I just started facilitating, I always thought that I would need a co-facilitator just in case, because I quite don't like doing energizers. But I think because of the programs I'm doing, I have to do a lot of facilitation by myself. So it's making me get real creative with those energizers, and it's really pushing me to embrace more of the fun bits of the
Were you
session.
about to say endure?
I
Endure it.
mean, the
You were
jury's
gonna
out.
say, I have to endure it. That's what you said.
Because I know that the young people look forward to it, and I don't want to be the villain in their story, right?
They love an energizer. They
So
love an
I,
energizer.
I do it, but I was even on TikTok looking for energizers, okay? I am dedicated to becoming better at energizers, and yes, I am embracing my lone wolf facilitation now because I realized the energizer was the only bit I didn't like. So yeah, learning and growing.
Amazing, thank you. Betty, Talia, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I love facilitating. I love working with young people. I feel like a big part of Huddle's practice is going on like retreats and making sure that we're meeting in person at least 2 times a year. And they're just huge highlights. I think that such an important part of this work is that the young people are able to build friendships that inspire them, push them to be able to like dream bigger. And I know that that's like part of what I value the most out of the Involving Young People Collective, like the relationships that I've built, and I've made friendships for life. And so when I see young people like connecting like on deeply and having debates and discussions and dreaming about like new ways of doing things together, I'm just like, oh, this is the best. This is the work. And so, yeah, I love building relationship with young people, knowing like what people care about, and also pushing trust and foundations to be like more daring with the amount of power that they're giving young people.
Mm.
I think it's okay if like not everything is youth led, like young people don't need to lead everything. But if we are like making sure that the power that we are giving with young people is valued, is genuinely important to the work that the trust and foundations that are doing, and that young people feel prepared to be able to do the work, like I care about that a lot. And I think that I've like really built my skills in asking for more for young people and knowing what young people need in order to access the work.
Mm. Amazing, thank you. I wish we had like much longer to talk, so I'm going to just ask you like 2 more questions and then we're going to wrap up today's episode. The question I want to ask is, if someone wants to move from participant to associate, what do you think they need to pay attention to, or what do you think they need to bring to the role?
You need to be on it in a way that you just weren't always before. Like, I was definitely the person that Lewis would have been chasing like 7 times to get something done. And like, sorry, as a coordinator or lead facilitator, you just can't be that person anymore. And that was a big like struggle for me, that you can't leave messages unread on Slack in the same ways that you've been doing it. And I know you're doing it. I think you
I
just
feel
have
like
to.
this has to be the soundbite of this episode. You have to be on it like you weren't on it before.
Yeah. Like you're not one of 12 participants anymore. It's just you, and 12 people are relying on you actually. And I think that like that was a big shift for me, that I think that when you're part of a group, you can kind of like hide in the group. It's okay if you are too busy to make the meeting that week. It's okay if you weren't able to like answer that form. And I was definitely that young person. But I think that being an associate of Huddle has given me a type of discipline that I just like didn't have before. That I manage being an associate alongside a full-time job. alongside like projects and friends and family. And it's just enabled me to be able to manage my time and see my time in like such different ways. And so I think it's a really valuable experience. And I recommend anybody to do it, even the person that like struggles with managing their time. Like you're just gonna have to manage your time better. You're gonna do it because you have to. But I think that's my biggest thing is like, yeah, the biggest shift for me was just like my relationship with my time.
Amazing. Thank you, Betty. That was such an incredible answer.
I was going to say I would have blocked Betty from joining if I was coordinating and she wouldn't respond.
When you got to the 7th, when you got to the 6th ask, you were like,
yeah,
out.
exactly.
No, you need to be compassionate with those people. Like those people, like that was so me. I'm just like, fair, I get it. I actually get it. But you just can't be that person as an associate.
Completely agree with Betty. So I think you need that, but also patience and compassion in that it's not just about you. Obviously, it's about other people and thinking about what other people might be going through. It's about managing emotions as well and managing people, which can be quite difficult, but you will soon get to grips with it. I think the communication side of things is something that I definitely grew in. I would have said I was an excellent communicator before this, which would have been an absolute lie, because I think I've developed to being a somewhat all right communicator, but I've got a long way to go. But these programs really helped me to do that, because you meet so many different types of people from different parts of the UK. So it's not just that you're managing different personalities, but it's also different ways of just being, different identities as well. So it's that exposure that's really big that you should be prepared for.
Amazing, thank you. And Thalia, I'm going to come to you lastly for that question. What does someone need to know or do if they want to move from participant to associate?
I think like just trust yourself and trust the process a bit, like in the beginning. Like imagine if you were yourself as the participant, like when you just jumped in and everything didn't make sense, but like suddenly it did. Like the same thing will happen to you as a coordinator or a lead facilitator, I think, because you're not alone. Like you might be the only coordinator, but you still have like the HUDL community or like me and Keji to like answer any questions. And I am that person who will always answer you on Slack. So like you can always send me a message if you have a question. But I think, yeah, patience is definitely a big one. Understanding that like it's not the end of the world if I didn't get all my survey responses, because I don't know, maybe someone just doesn't care about my survey, and that's okay. But yeah, I think having compassion and just really, I think it's such a nice working culture here. I really, really like coming back to the HUDL space all the time because it's different. And I think, yeah, there's so much potential to grow as a coordinator and take on responsibility that I think a lot of organizations are scared to give young people sometimes.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I knew I was going to enjoy this conversation, and I 100% did. And I wish that we had longer, and I feel like there's another episode that we can come back to this on this. So thank you for joining us for this episode of HUDL Up, and a huge thank you to today's guests for sharing their stories and insights. If you'd like to learn more about HUDL, explore our work, or get in touch about becoming an associate, running programs, strategy, or supporting your organization, you'll find links in the description of this episode. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening now. Join us next time as we continue holding space for real stories, shared power, and collective change. See you next time.